Okay, folks, we will call this meeting to order. First meeting in April, the 14th of April, to be exact. And we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Next is a roll call, please.
Mr. Hinckley. Absent. Ms. McGuire.
Here?
Mr. Gajewski. Mr. Pinkowski.
Here.
Ms. Carrasco here. Mr. Weed.
Here.
Mr. Byer.
Here. Thank you. Next we have agenda additions. Bob, I believe you have one?
Yes, the grant agreement for the DTE energy planning grant.
Okay. And we will, that's the tree planting deal.
Yes.
In fact, you have something on the counter here.
Correct.
Regarding that. Okay. We'll put that under other with the board's permission. Number 4. And a second addition under other, well, I'm going to make that number 5, is we have an appointment to the Planning Commission. So that will be number 5 under other. Anything else? Okay. Next we have public comment, and just a reminder to the public that we do have 2 of these, and the first one we ask that you fill out a card giving us just a hint of what you wish to talk about, and you have 4 minutes in which to give us the information that you wish. So do we have any cards?
We have one, but it's for the second period.
Okay, all right. All right, then we'll move ahead to the consent agenda, and the first of 3 parts in the consent agenda is the minutes of our last meeting 3 weeks ago, 24th of March. Is there anyone that has any kind of question or correction on the minutes for the 24th of March? I have no corrections, I just have a question. The backhoe reverser repair, what's going on with that? Is that?
I believe it is being evaluated, but I don't have definitive answers to what
Okay.
the outcome is. Yes.
And about the tire changer balancer bids, do we have?
We've purchased the equipment.
Okay, all right, thank you. Okay, then if there's nothing else regarding the minutes, the financial report, I think most of you have an adjusted agenda sheet. The first figure is a little light compared to what it really is. The payment of bills this time over a 3-week period is $184,710.17. So, anybody have anything else regarding the financial report? Okay, the third and last part of the consent agenda are informational items. And the superintendent has a couple regarding the fire truck auction sale result, which is kind of a negative result. No action on that, so we have to kind of decide where we're going to go from here. You're going to run it through one more time, do you think? Or
We are going to list it again, yes.
okay. And Fleece and Vandenbrink operations, personnel update. And then Ann has an item, an informational item regarding District Health Department number 2. Is there any questions on any of those 3 items? Hearing none, then I'm looking for a motion to accept the consent agenda.
So moved.
Support.
Thank you. Moved by Ms. McGuire with support from Mr. Weed that we do adopt the consent agenda as presented. Roll call, please.
Mr. Weed.
Yes.
Ms. Carrasco, yes. Mr. Pinkowski.
Yes.
Ms. McGuire.
Yes.
Mr. Byer.
Yes. Motion has passed. Okay, we move to the next part of the agenda for this evening, and it's the superintendent's report. And the first item we have is the employment of a police officer to replace a vacancy that was created, a few weeks ago, a month and a half ago or so. Robert?
Yes, thank you. What I've provided is communication from our chief of police setting forth a recommendation that the board employ Mr. Gerald Soboleski to fill the vacant full-time position. We've provided a copy of his resume. The recommendation results obviously from conclusion of a recent recruitment interview and then selection process. So that is it in a nutshell. We have the vacancy now, and the recommendation is that Mr. Soboleski be employed to fill the position.
Okay. Do we have any comments or questions regarding the recommendation?
I'll move that we accept the recommendation from the chief.
Okay.
Support.
All right, it's been moved by Ms. McGuire with support from Mr. Binkowski that we do act on the recommendation of the chief. Just a note again that this is another police officer that we're employing that comes from Alcona County. You know, 2 or 3 have in recent times in the last few months. So here we have another, and so we're glad to have him. Roll call, please.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes?
Mr. Weed?
Yes.
Ms. Krasko, yes. Mr. Binkowski?
Yes.
Mr. Byer?
Yes. Motion has passed. Next item is Code Enforcement Officer, a hiring recommendation.
Yes, this position's been open for some time, and at the point in time I put my report together, I was hopeful that we'd be able to offer a recommendation this evening, subject to some pre-employment screening that wasn't complete at that point in time. Specifically, that process is concluded, and I'm bringing forth a recommendation that the board consider employing Eric Donahue per the attached resume on the board table to fill the vacant part-time code officer position. This is a 20-hour-a-week position with a beginning pay rate of $13.37.
Okay. Do we have any comment or questions on this? All right. Any questions at all? All right, then I need a motion that we hire Mr. Eric, what was the name, Donahue?
Donahue, yes, sir.
Okay, as our new code enforcement officer. Replaces Mr. John Rudowski.
So moved.
Okay.
Support.
Motion by Ms. McGuire with support from Mr. Weed that we go ahead with this hiring as is recommended. Roll call, please.
Mr. Binkowski?
Yes.
Mr. Weed?
Yes.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes?
Ms. Krasko, yes. Mr. Byer?
Yes, motion passed. Next item is some follow-up items from our recent work session of last week.
Yes, there were a couple of items that, based on discussion, would appear to merit reconsideration, and then also seeking confirmation from the board on a third topic that I would be headed in the right direction in terms of consensus. In terms of reconsideration, the first topic would be the Footsite Fire Barn and property and the potential means of disposing of it. Previously, the board had adopted a direction in terms of seeking competitive bids after we had placed an easement on the property or reserved an easement for recreational trail use, basically to maintain the benefit from the trails that the property now provides. However, there was discussion at the work session in terms of revisiting potential conveyance or lease of the property to Oscoda County. A representative attended the work session, made a presentation as to the benefits that would accrue to the community if the county could have access to the building. So I'm bringing the issue back before the board on that basis. My thought, if we are going to consider entertaining the request from the county, is that the simplest and probably most beneficial way to proceed might be to convey ownership of the building and property, subject to a reverter clause that acknowledged we were doing the conveyance because of the recreational benefit to the community that was being created, and reserving the right at the township's discretion in the future if the building wasn't used for recreational purposes to affect the reverter and take ownership back. Obviously, that would require some wordsmithing and input from the attorney, but the concept is we would be conveying the property in exchange for that benefit. And we want to ensure that the benefit is maintained in the future.
And this reverter clause, you said it has to be fine-tuned by the township attorney, but the reverter clause would be at the discretion of the township if we wanted it back or not. Is that right?
That would be my thought.
Yeah. Okay. Any comment or question? If not, I would make the motion that we do transfer after the lawyer fine-tunes this, that we do transfer the building in question located in the Footsite area to the County of Oscoda, particularly the Recreation Committee, for use in snowmobile trail equipment and ORV, etc. Support. Okay, motion has been made by Byer with support from Mr. Weed. Any further discussion before we vote?
Kim, I'd like to just thank
Yeah.
Mr. Matthews for coming to our work session and
Being
pleading his
here again
case for
tonight.
the county,
Yep,
and also being here tonight.
yep. He was very persuasive. Pervasive. That too, maybe. But very persuasive, at the work session, and the job reminded us of some factors that really should be considered in this, and he certainly changed my mind. So anyway, thank you. And anything else? Okay, roll call, please.
Ms. Carrasco, yes. Mr. Pankowski?
Yes.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Weed?
Yes.
Mr. Byer?
Yes, motion is passed. The building is almost yours.
Thank you. I appreciate your consideration.
Okay, next item under the work session follow-up items is the conference room, this room, television production booth.
Yes, along the same lines, this particular topic was referred to the work session with the idea that maybe we should reconsider moving ahead with the production booth, giving the pending inquiry and interest in a third party purchasing the building. Again, the consensus from the work session appeared to be that, yes, we should reconsider the question, number one, and number two, it might be appropriate to set the issue aside until we get definite direction regarding the potential sale of the building, which we hopefully will establish in the next couple of months.
Okay, do we have a discussion? Or a motion to set the booth project aside for the time being?
So moved.
Okay,
Support.
all right, moved by Ms. Carrasco with support from Mr. Binkowski that we do set aside the modification of this boardroom until we know exactly what's going on with the building, potential sale of the buildings. Any further discussion or questions? Okay, roll call, please.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Weed?
Yes.
Ms. Carrasco, yes. Mr. Pankowski?
Yes.
Mr. Byer?
Yes, motion is passed. Third item that we talked about at the work session, again last week, the exploration of a possible millage to support our fire department.
Yes, along those lines, I wanted to seek confirmation that the board would like to explore the possibility of a fire millage, specifically with the intent of looking at vehicle and equipment replacement as a certainty, and then maybe secondarily fire department operations in general. In doing so, we would look at the approach that neighboring and other communities utilize for fire service millages. We would explore the timeline in terms of when the ballot initiative might be most appropriately placed, and preliminarily it looks like August would be a push, frankly, but We would need to confirm that. And the ultimate goal here would be to establish a secure revenue stream for meeting fire department capital improvement needs, which are obviously substantial given our recent experience with our newest fire truck, and also the potential for providing some flexibility and relief to the general fund to meet some of our other pressing needs. So that was my understanding, and again, I'm seeking concurrence that that is generally accurate, or with any other avenues or nuances that you'd like to have staff explore.
Anybody have any comment regarding, this is pretty close to what we talked about? Seems to me we have two questions. Number one is, do we want to go ahead with this? And number two is, if we do, are we talking about the primary election in August or the general election in November? And
If you're talking about the primary, we have to have it done by August 26th through April 26th or 29th, I'm not sure, but it has to be done by then and submitted to the county. If we do it in November, we have until early August.
okay. Well,
What date do you think's best?
I think, frankly, it might be a push to look at the financial implications and develop ballot language and get it on the August ballot, if in fact the timeline Ms. Carrasco was mentioning is what's applicable.
Jeff, if I can lean on you a little bit, as the chairman of the county commission, to your knowledge, how many ballot issues are there going to be?
Well, I know the county has placed two on the ballot. I think that's the sheriff's department, animal control, and a recreational millage. And the Commission on Aging, Oscoda County Commission on Aging, has also placed one on the ballot.
So that's three.
Correct.
Are they all going to be on the ballot in August?
I believe so.
Okay.
And I would concur with Bob here, the time constraint that you have coming up and developing your language may be a challenge.
Pretty tough. Yeah. And I think that having a proposal on the ballot in November by itself, rather than a cluster, this would be number 3 or 4.
All kinds of strategy.
Yeah. Anyway, we can. Are we okay with the fact that we're almost, the time limits are almost too tight for August?
That's fine with me.
Okay.
One other thing I should mention too is we looked at some preliminary numbers from the audit, and I had indicated that there were some questions about transfers out of the general fund, and it turns out that they were in fact overstated to the extent where there's essentially a turnaround to the good of about $118,000. So instead of having a deficit of $80,000, we would, if the numbers hold true, turn out to have a surplus of about $35,000. So the picture's a little more positive than we talked about. I don't think that's a meaningful change, but still, you should be aware of it.
Change in the right direction. Eh?
Yes, yes.
Okay, you have what you want from
Yes.
this item. All right.
However, if we didn't change sewer contracts, then would we then be in the negative?
The particular number that I was making reference to was the general fund, so it should not have had an effect there. But in terms of the sewer fund, and water fund, we would not have had near as positive a result with the previous contract cost.
Anything else? Okay, your next item is the telecom and utility auditing service, possibly.
Yes, I wanted to make the board aware of an opportunity to at least seek some cost efficiency. This comes by way of a proposal, or at least potential proposal, from CBI Telecommunications Consultants. This is a company that reviews telephone, internet, and utility billings with the intent of discovering errors, oversights, etc., that lead to cost savings, and then they essentially share the savings with the client. The actual percentages that, in terms of the split, are defined by the scope of work in each individual contract. The opportunity was brought to my attention by East Tawas. They hired these folks, and the report I got was that they were quite thorough and satisfied with the result. So before we started engaging them in discussion and sending billings and so forth and taking the preliminary steps to develop a contract, I thought it appropriate to ensure that this is something the board would have an interest in pursuing. From my perspective, it's a pretty low-risk means to look at savings in money and ensuring that our utility billings are as accurate as possible. But if we were going to proceed, that would involve sending the billings and then developing a contract that would come back before the board before any work was actually undertaken.
Did your source in the Tawases indicate where the most savings, the person was impressed with the company's work? Are we talking about telephone, internet, utility, all about equal, or one stands out?
That information was not provided.
Okay. This does not include water.
No.
Okay. Questions? Okay. Well, Mr. Stalker is looking for some feedback only, not necessarily a motion. Does this sound like something we could involve ourselves in, give it a try, or?
How many, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead. Go ahead.
I just said it can't hurt.
Oh, how much, how many months of bills are we going to have to get together to send to them?
I think preliminarily it will be somewhat limited. I'm guessing probably 4 to 6, but the total process would probably be a lot more involved than that.
Is there any time frame? I'm assuming we're looking at last year's bills or this year's, or because we only
They've
have
not
limited.
really indicated, and I think that would all be boiled down into the contract document as to what the scope would be.
Okay. But we don't have to, we don't have to send them anything prior to the contract?
We do. I'm thinking probably at least 4 months initially, so they have a pretty good idea what the volume is and the potential savings, and my assumption is that the lower the amount of savings that they expect, the higher the percentage is going to be based on their preliminary look at the billings.
Are we going to send them 4 months of all of the utility bills, or just a sampling, or one, or? I'm going to have to get this together, so I'm trying to get it in my head what we're doing here.
They didn't really give me specifics, but my thought is that any area where we have potential to save, whether it's internet or long-distance telephone, cell phones, we should send them across the board what might yield some savings.
Our biggest is, of course, our consumers' power, so that's, the other ones are pretty easy compared to those, because those are the stacks up there, so not a problem, though. Yep.
Would this company have the ability to check on our electrical power outlet based on maybe streetlights that aren't functioning and things like this? I mean, we've had to scope that out ourselves.
I am doubtful they would go to that level of detail. I think it's more about confirming addresses and billing rates and that type of thing.
Okay. Anything else? Go ahead. All right, next item is the bids for 2014 dust control. And what did we find out?
Well, we have 2 bids. There's a bid tabulation sheet. These are the same 2 companies that have bid on our contract for the past several years. There was a third that indicated they're interested but committed in the current year, or they think they will be, but next year they're likely to bid, which would be a good thing to have a little more competition. The net result of the process is identifying the apparent low bidder as Michigan Chloride Sales of St. Louis at 0.195 cents per gallon for 28% processed brine. the company also is offered an off-season application discount, which is identified in the bid tab sheet. You might recall we had talked, I think, coming out of the work session last fall, about looking at discounted time frames, and the bid specs called for potentially a May and July application to encourage discounted pricing. It appears as they have a standardized schedule, so if we were going to take advantage of the pricing, we would probably need to comply with the schedule. The other thing I should point out is the RFP made reference to the potential for a third application cycle at the township's discretion. We had indicated through that previous discussion that that might be an option as well. So the question, I guess, boils down to what time of year would we like to look at and how many application cycles. We don't need to commit to that this evening, but obviously, I think if we were going to do the early May application cycle, we don't have a lot of time to get the discounted price.
Do we have any thoughts?
Wish Mr. Hinckley was here. He had
Yeah, he
strong
definitely wanted
opinions.
he really wanted that third application.
And so do I. I'm thinking that we've had quite a few roads returned to gravel, and in fairness to those people, a lot of bad feeling about that, I think, but we should make the best possible effort to keep the dust down, and I think we should look seriously at a third application. And if we do, I think this schedule of May and July is fine. And that would leave us, sometime maybe in September or something like that, a third application. But there is no gigantic discount for a third or anything like that, right?
No.
Same prices, so.
Correct.
It doesn't matter really right now, but I'm just curious. You and I talked earlier today. Were you able to find out if this 0.195 per gallon price how does that compare with what we paid in the past, or did you not have time to check that out?
I did. Last year we paid .194.
Oh, really? Okay. Well, that's not bad. Okay, thank you for doing that.
You're welcome.
All right, we don't, I guess if we're inclined to have a third application, I'm just assuming here that the May, July schedule is okay. If we're only gonna have two, we better spread that out a little more, so.
So you're thinking May, July, and September?
Yeah,
I'm good with
or
that.
late August or something like that, early September,
Late August would probably be better.
yeah. Yeah, I agree. Are they kind of flexible? Did you get the sense that if we say late August instead of after Labor Day or something like that, that they can comply with that?
I'm pretty confident they can. It depends whether you want to try and get the discount or not. Because the discount period is July 7 through 25.
And September 2nd through October 17th, so
No.
if you did it in August, you would get the discount.
Oh, I see, yeah. Well, let's just look at the weather conditions and, that, if we have a real dry summer.
And if you did it on September 2nd, that's pretty close to the end of
Yeah,
August. so-
exactly.
Do we want to shoot for having the first one during the first discount period, which ends May 9th?
I think so.
Try to, if we can.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Well, I think we need a motion on this to accept the low-cost bid from Michigan Chloride Sales.
So moved with 3 applications.
Support.
Okay. The motion's made by Mr. Weed to accept the low bid from Michigan Chloride Sales for 3 applications, the dates to be determined, and that was supported by Ms. McGuire. Anything further? Roll call, please.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Gieske?
Yes.
Mr. Pankowski?
Yes.
Ms. Krasko, yes. Mr. Reed?
Yes.
Mr. Dwyer?
Yes. Motion carried. Okay, now we move to action items under the Community Development Coordinator. And Ann, you have an exclusive development agreement.
Right, I guess technically I could have called it the VA proposal, but.
Okay.
So at the November 25th meeting, the Township Board authorized signing a development agreement with J.E. Johnson in regard to the Ani Medical Building and adjacent property. A component of the development agreement involves one of the current tenants, the Veterans Administration. At the time of the fall discussion on this topic, I informed the board that the VA clinic lease was due to expire on December 30th, 2013, and that my office had received notice that the clinic was looking to expand their current office space by approximately 2,000 square feet. This request for larger space was advertised in the paper and identified very specific parameters that a building must exhibit, as well as a specific geographic location area in Iosco County. A group from the Saginaw Veterans Office toured several possible locations, including the Ani Medical Building, where I presented two options for their consideration. Option one was to add to their current lease space by expanding into 2 contiguous suites, and option two was to rehabilitate the 6,000 square feet that they were requesting in the current unoccupied area of the Ani building, which would involve a complete relocation from their existing space. In December, I received a request to extend the VA's current lease by 1 year in order to give them adequate time to solicit proposals on the expansion project. At that time, I was told to expect the solicitation proposal before the end of the year. Obviously, that did not happen. On Tuesday, which was last week, April 8th, I received an email from the VA clinic that the township was being asked to provide a GSA request for the lease proposal, and that proposal has a due date of May 8th. This obviously creates some urgency in terms of timing, particularly given the complexity and specifics of the solicitation. As previously mentioned in my above narrative, this expansion was identified in Exhibit A of the development agreement with J.E. Johnson, where they would serve as the construction manager for this expansion project. I did meet with Greg Saxton with J.E. Johnson last week on Thursday, April 10th, to discuss the request for the lease proposal. J.E. Johnson is willing to work with the township to complete the proposal in the designated time at no cost to the township. If the proposal is accepted by the VA, the township and J.E. Johnson would then enter into a construction management agreement, and they would facilitate the project from start to finish for a mutually agreed upon fee based on industry standard. I would also note that there's quite a difference in this existing lease that they're proposing. The new lease has the new lease involves the township as the landlord, including maintenance and cleaning operations for the clinic and our lease rates. We don't currently offer any of those services right now. They contract separately out, so we have to also bake that into the lease.
All right. Question, Ann. This, on Tuesday, April 8th, I received an email from the VA clinic and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
Does this mean that they have settled with us? Because earlier in your narrative, you talked about the Saginaw Veterans Office had toured several possible locations.
They will not tell you if they've invited other people to solicit proposals, so.
Okay. And this does not give you a hint that they've decided to go with us? You can't count on that, right?
No,
Okay.
no, you would give them what you're proposing, including their lease rate, and then they would let you know, yes.
Okay.
So if we do an exclusive construction management agreement,
Mhm.
how does that bind us if the VA changes locations?
Well, we would only enter the construction management agreement with J.E. Johnson if they accepted our proposal. So J.E. Johnson is going to work with us to put numbers together on the expansion itself. So what construction costs are involved, work with us on like how to put in the cleaning costs, basically develop the plan, so to speak. We'll submit that to the VA clinic, and then if the VA clinic responds back to us that yes, we would like to enter, do a lease with you and do those renovations, then we would enter into the contract with J.E. Johnson, and they would be the construction manager. Kind of similar to what we do now with Spicer or other engineers on projects, where they would handle the project for us. So you would have more, I mean, what what I'm asking for tonight is the ability to move forward with J.E. Johnson to work on the proposal to the VA clinic. I would come back to the board at the next meeting and give you what we have to date anyways. I don't know if we'll have it completely all put together because the proposal is actually due on May 8th, and with the board meeting timing, we might not have all the numbers crunched at that time, but I could give you what we had at that time, what we'll be proposing, and hopefully by then we'll have more of a construction management agreement form from J.E. Johnson for you to review and see if it's something that you want to agree to.
There is, however, I think, an implied commitment, even though they're not going to charge to help put together the proposal. Their expectation, I believe, is that we would use them for construction management
Right.
services if the plane gets landed in terms of our project being selected for implementation.
And the legalities of that or what?
I'm not sure.
As far as them being exclusive for the construction management?
I think we explored that when we did the original agreement. And that's what the original agreement contemplated.
That we signed.
Yes.
They're not going to be managing the lease itself. I mean, that is our lease.
They're
So
managing
they're
the
managing the
construction
construction
only.
component of it. So they would be the general contractor per se. So,
And it is a professional service, which
Right.
gives us a fair amount of latitude.
and they do have I can't talk tonight. They are familiar with working with other government contracts. So, I mean, something like they have an office that, Greg isn't an engineer, but they have people on staff all right there that can crunch these numbers and work it for us. They were planning on touring tomorrow, the suites, but they had to postpone till Wednesday, kind of based on some issues that they have in Midland with some flooding on some of their projects. But they'll come through, and because it's a question of moving walls and expanding spaces, I mean, basically they're looking to expand their exam rooms to larger space. It's relocation of bathrooms, all kinds of different things. So they will be facilitating all those numbers for us.
Okay, and the GSA is, I'm guessing, is the Government Services Administration, a federal agency?
It's
Yes.
general
General services.
Services.
General
right.
Services Administration, okay.
right.
Okay, all right. Okay, do we have a motion?
I'll move as presented.
Support.
Okay, the motion is made to move forward with this GSA request for lease proposals. And that motion is by Ms. McGuire with support from Mr. Binkowski. Any further discussion? Roll call.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Weed?
Yes.
Ms. Carrasco, yes. Mr. Gieske?
Yes.
Mr. Binkowski?
Yes.
Ms. Dwyer?
Yes. Carried. Next, we move to the next section of our agenda, resolutions and ordinances, and we have two resolutions. The first is Resolution 2014-4. And this one deals with goals and objective for the Charter Township of Oscoda. Bob?
This is the same resolution we talked about at the work session, wherein there were specific sections highlighted in terms of additions and deletions. Essentially finalized that resolution based on discussion at the work session, and it's being presented now for potential adoption.
Okay. Well, we kicked this one around a little bit at the work session, but any further comments or questions regarding the way it appears as a resolution? 4 goals outlined on 3 pages. Hearing none, I need a motion to accept Resolution 2014-4.
So moved.
Support.
Okay, moved by Ms. Carrasco with support from Mr. Gieske, that we do go ahead with Resolution 2014-04. Roll call, please.
Mr. Weed?
Yes.
Ms. Carrasco, yes. Mr. Pankowski?
Yes.
Mr. Gieske?
Yes.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Byer?
Yes, motion carried. Second resolution tonight is 2014-5, and it deals with the cemetery.
Yes, this resolution, if adopted, would implement the modified rate structure we talked about a few weeks ago. This is based on the preferred option from the board's perspective. The resolution acknowledges that the last time we looked at rates was many years ago, and that costs have increased since then, and that the rates would remain in effect until adjusted at some point, if and when the board reconsidered them at some point in the future.
Okay. Having had a chance to look at the various rates, they're quite, explicit here, based, divided by residents and non-residents. Is there anyone that has any kind of objection or question regarding any of these? Hearing none. Do we have a motion to accept the new rates? It'll be the first new rates in 14 years.
I make a motion to adopt resolution 2014-05.
Support.
Okay, the motion is made by Mr. Weed with support from Ms. McGuire that we do adopt the cemetery rate structure modification, which is resolution 2014-05. Roll call, please.
Mr. Gieske?
Yes.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Weed?
Yes.
Ms. Carrasco, yes. Mr. Pankowski?
Yes.
Mr. Byer?
Yes. Motion passed. Next, we move to other on our agenda. 3 items that have been expanded to 5. We added 2, Martin, before you got here, but first one deals with Little League operating permit.
Yes, this is the annual renewal of the agreement, in this case for 2014, obviously, with the term running through mid-April to mid-July. The content of the agreement, other than change in term, is based on, or consistent with past documents. It's now been executed by representatives of the Huron East Little League, and authorization is being sought with the supervisor and clerk to execute it on the township's behalf.
Okay. Sounds like an easy deal. We do this each year. Approximately how many years in a row have we? Hard to say.
Yeah, because there was a predecessor group to the Knothole League. So.
Yeah. But
I'll move we go ahead with the agreement. Support.
motion by Mr. Pankowski with support from Mr. Gieske that we do go ahead with the agreement as outlined with the Knothole Little League, Huron East Knothole League Little League. Roll call, please.
Mr. Pankowski?
Yes.
Mr. Weed?
Yes.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Gieske?
Yes.
Ms. Carrasco, yes. Mr. Byer?
Yes. Next item, I'm going to call on Ms. Carrasco to handle. It involves her deputy.
Well, it's my great disappointment to announce that my deputy is retiring effective August 15th, 2014 of this year. And she's been in that position for 13 years, and she's just wants to retire.
And we're talking about Mrs. Judy Johnson. Those of you that have had any dealings with the clerk's office, either with Ms. Carrasco or the previous clerk, she's worked there for, you said how many years?
13 years.
13 years, okay. And she's been with the township in other capacities
Right.
beyond that, so we will definitely miss her.
Yes, we
And,
will.
Since she is Ms. Carrasco's employee, not the township in general, we just need to acknowledge that we have received this letter and this is going to happen halfway through August. Okay?
And
Everybody?
with many regrets.
Many.
Yes.
Yep.
She's a great person, good worker, and just a good person to work with. So. Okay, next is a SRF work plan, possible public hearing.
So we talked at a recent meeting about two things unfolding, or more than two, actually at the same time, regarding our wastewater lagoon improvement plan. We need to get the plan approved and submitted to the state prior to July 1st. Unfortunately, we don't have sign-off from all the DEQ folks who have been reviewing it, and in discussion with Ken Jewison, actually Friday or late Thursday, we discussed the urgency and the need to move forward and at least get the plan into the state's hands after a public hearing. At the same time, you might recall we have a compliance deadline in the permit, which is triggering all this urgency to have the improvements completed. That would be October of 2015. So what I am suggesting that we consider this evening is establishing a public hearing date, and also the potential for pursuing a request to extend that deadline in the permit. If we're successful with the extension request, then getting the plan in on July 1st becomes a moot point. But we don't know how that extension request is going to be handled on the state's end. So the safe thing, I think, is to pursue both courses. The public hearing process requires 30 days notice. So specifically, I am looking for the board's authorization to hold the hearing on May 27th, which is the Tuesday after Memorial Day. I originally had said the 26th, and it was pointed out to me that that would be problematic, and that it is Memorial Day. But that would leave us some time to make adjustments to the plan if there is public input that appears to indicate that's appropriate, and still meet our submission deadline. The other alternative would be to wait till the June 9th meeting, but that's starting to cut things pretty close time-wise. And again, at the same time, we would like to have the board's endorsement of submitting an extension request for a year or a year and a half. It'd be October 2016 or spring of 2017. That's yet to be determined based on maybe some feedback from the state. We hope to get preliminarily. And when I say we, I'm still dealing with RAZD and Mr. Jewison. Spicer's working on a proposal, and in the near future we will have them in the loop, and hopefully they'll facilitate that transition. But we don't want to lose a step in this process given the timing that we need to comply with.
Okay, so basically applying for this deadline movement is the first step, right? If you were granted that extension, we don't need to worry about May 27th?
That is correct, but the timing is such that I think we should do both at the
Okay.
same time. And then if we get the relief and we don't have to have the public hearing, great, but frankly, I'm doubtful we'll get a response that quick anyway.
Okay. Everybody understands the 27th is Tuesday after Memorial Day. So.
Do they have to be separate motions?
Probably should be.
Okay.
I'll make a motion that we plan the public hearing for Tuesday, May 27th at 7 p.m.
Support. Okay, the motion has been made by Ms. McGuire with support from Mr. Byer. Roll call, please.
Mr. Gajewski?
Yes.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes?
Mr. Weed?
Yes.
Ms. Carrasco, yes. Mr. Pinkowski?
Yes.
Mr. Byer?
Yes. Okay, next we need a motion that Bob does apply for an extension to this.
So support.
Okay, Mr. Minkowski, motion, support from Mr. Weed that we do apply for an extension in this matter. Roll call, please.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes?
Mr. Gajewski?
Yes.
Mr. Pinkowski?
Yes.
Ms. Carrasco, yes. Mr. Weed?
Yes.
Mr. Byer?
Yes. Okay, motion carried. And now we go to the first of two additions to our agenda, and you have a item that deals with the tree planting grant.
Yes, I'm happy to report we got notice last week that we've been approved for a tree planting grant through the state DTE Energy Foundation program in the amount of $2,997.50. The reason the item did not get in the board packet initially is there was a need to talk with the program manager about a budget oversight, frankly, on our end in the submitted budget. And if you turn to the second page of the handout I've provided, you'll see where there's handwritten numbers there. We'd actually overstated our required local match. The board had originally approved a $2,000 cash contribution and up to $800 in kind, labor and supplies. We're a little over the in-kind and a little under on the cash match. But with this revised budget, I am seeking authorization as the township's representative to sign the grant agreement and submit it. I've also provided the attachment one, which is the bulk of the conditions that apply to the grant that are related to the agreement.
Okay. So you would like a motion from us?
To execute the agreement.
I'll make a motion that we authorize the superintendent to sign and execute the document.
Support.
Okay, motion by Ms. McGuire with support from Mr. Weed that we do authorize the superintendent, Mr. Stalker, to go ahead with this agreement. Roll call, please.
Mr. Gieske?
Yes.
Mr. Weed?
Yes.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Pinkowski?
Yes.
Ms. Carrasco, yes. Mr. Byer?
Yes. Okay, next we move to number 5. And for some time, we have had a vacancy on the Planning Commission, a very important body in our township, overall township government. We also had a vacancy on the Zoning Board of Appeals, which we have filled. Anyway, I'm here tonight to recommend that we place Mr. Stephen Worsterbarth. He has attended a couple of our meetings. He's also the gentleman that was interested in the Footsite building. Just to give you a little background, you're thinking, who is this guy? He's relatively new to the community, but I think he would be a good fit and provide a little balance between people on the Planning Commission that are retired and people that are still involved in their professions and work. I think we need both in that. So anyway, that's my recommendation, Steve Worsterbarth. And anybody have any questions? If not, I need a motion.
So moved.
Support.
Okay, it is moved by Mr. Binkowski with support from Ms. McGuire that we do appoint Mr. Steve Worsterbarth to the Oscoda Township Planning Commission. He's very excited about being on this. Of course, I talked with him to see if it was something he would like, and everything is positive. So, okay, roll call, please.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Gieske?
Yes.
Ms. Carrasco, yes. Mr. Pinkowski?
Yes.
Mr. Weed?
Yes.
Mr. Byer?
Yes. Motion carried. All right. Next, we are to our second public comment. And I believe you said you had a card that preferred to talk in the second. Right up here, please.
Hello, I'm back. First, I have a quick question. While researching my private road issue, on your website, it states that you are not a true township. What is the name for that? I can't remember due to, I have memory issues, and I forgot to write that word down, but Sabo and Oscoda are not true townships, and I want to know what that exactly means for us residents.
I don't, we are a charter town. There are two kinds of townships in Michigan. Usually the smaller townships are called general law townships. For instance, Greenbush is a general law township in the next county. But we are a charter township, and so is Osabo.
By what I read on your site, it claimed like it's a dual entity, and I'm just curious what that means to us.
No, we do cooperate in a lot of things. We share police, fire, fireworks.
Okay, I wish I could have remembered to write down the word, I apologize.
But no, we are separate townships.
Okay, and I'm new to this, but I'm trying. On the road issue, you did take my name and number, sir,
Yeah.
and it's been 2 weeks. I had
Three.
not heard, 3, well,
Yeah.
math's another bad issue with me and numbers. Even if you hadn't heard it, I know you've got a lot on your plate, all of you.
No,
I
I-
appreciate your time, and
I have been out to your road 3 times. Once to just try to locate it,
okay.
and twice I have driven through it. And my wife was with me, and she said, "Jim, we're not going in here, are we?" You know, and we did. And the car disappeared.
Almost. I do have video, if no one believes me, how bad it
It's pretty
was.
bad. It's pretty bad, yes. I haven't gotten back to you because I've been unsuccessful so far in getting, talking to the school. You brought it to our attention last time that school buses were a major factor in that.
Yes, for the last 4 years approximately
Yeah.
is what caused the damage, but they're claiming it's the residents. The largest vehicle is a van, and even if it had 30 people in the van, it wouldn't weigh enough to make the damage that you've witnessed.
Yeah.
So at this point, I guess, contact Oscoda High School myself.
I'm going to keep trying, but have you contacted them since
Yes,
you were
well,
here?
not since I was here, because
Okay.
I was waiting to
Yeah.
hear from you and the road commission, actually. Also, real quick, about the mushroom park. I pick mushrooms, and I love the woods, and you cannot have mushrooms in full sun. They just don't live like that. So what my suggestion might be at the park is like trailing arbutus, native plants that we're actually losing species of, that might benefit the area and make it look, flowers, wild grasses, whatnot, native to our area. It just strikes me as odd that you want it to be a mushroom park when mushrooms don't grow in full sun. On the building issues, I did mention hempcrete, but there's also hemp plastic which could be put underground. All of this is eco-friendly, biodegradable, and it not only would help our air quality by the growth of hemp, and I do believe some of the counties further north of us are already in that process of growing hemp and using it for these types of products. One more quick thing. Go on YouTube, watch Henry Ford's hemp car. It not only ran on hemp fuel, but it was made out of hemp plastic. They beat it with either an axe or a sledgehammer in the 40s, and there's videotape of it. It don't even chip it, bend it. It's stronger than steel, so if that helps in your decision, you know, that may be a factor. And other than that, the road issue is still my most, I'm able to finally get into my place, but like the chair hasn't been able to been picked up till just recently because of the melt, you know.
We can maybe deal with the school bus thing, and I suggest you call again, and I will keep trying to. I don't want to just talk to anybody there. I want to talk to the head man. And
I think it's a woman, but I'm not positive.
no,
It is.
the bus person is,
Yes,
but I'd like to
yes,
talk.
transportation.
Yes, but I'd like to also talk to the superintendent.
Okay, and I wonder wondered if maybe I should go to even a school board meeting or
That
something
wouldn't-
to that effect.
Right across the road from where you're
Yeah,
talking about.
So,
yeah.
I'm new to this, like I said, and I apologize. I will try to learn as much as I possibly am able to, and I want to be involved in our community because I see our town is dying, and that upsets me greatly. And what was done to Foot Dam is just devastating to me. You know, we live in the country, and I get the ramps for the disabled because I need a wheelchair myself at times. But to take every single tree and just pave it all over like that, it breaks my heart. And I've got a mouth left. My body might not work right, but I'm here to speak up finally. And I thank you for your time.
Yes, but what I was going to say is, remember, keep in mind, whatever happens with the school buses, you live on a private road. There's not much that a township or the road commission can do.
That's where my struggle is.
Yeah, you need,
But
the people that live on that road are going to have to reach into their pockets, I think, and get some
Well, that's what
gravel or,
initially the
yeah.
road commission told me. But with the school knowing full well it was a private road, they should have not used it because of, actually, I'm sure, liability. If the bus would have tipped over in one of those deep holes in the ice and the kids got hurt, you know,
Yeah.
there's many issues, so.
Okay.
But I appreciate your time, and I thank you all.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, anyone else in the audience wishes to take advantage of this final public comment period? Okay, all right, hearing none, then we'll go to board comments. Is there anyone here on the board that has anything? Yes.
I had one. I just wanted to remind everybody that the community center is staying open a little longer this year. We normally close on April 15th. We're actually open through the whole month of April. So our last day is, I forget if there's 30 days in April. Are there 30 days in April? 31?
Yeah.
Okay, well anyways, we won't be open May 1st. So whatever the last day of April is, we're open through. And so I just want to remind you of that. That's an extra 2 weeks. And then also we have a speaker scheduled for tomorrow, or I'm sorry, Wednesday. Dr. Lynn Benke from Tawas St. Joe is going to come and talk about being heart healthy at noon at the community center. That is open to the public as well as members. So come to the community center for that. Okay, thank you.
Okay, I have a couple items that deal with the board. I just would quickly like to thank board members. You know, we've had a lot of vacancies recently, and we still have some. But you know, I mentioned Mr. Weed last time when we put Mr. Jim Bigger on the Zoning Board of Appeals, and tonight Mr. Wisterbarth and Rick was very helpful in that. So any of these vacancies, you know, anybody has an idea, please come forth, as these two gentlemen have, and I thank them for that. And the second thing is kind of an in-house thing, but I would like to extend to all board members my thanks for those of you that cannot be at meetings to give us a little advance notice. Martin, you know, kind of let people know. Matt did. Mr. Weed has even indicated, you know, some future meeting, near future, that he will not be at. So that's very helpful if you do that. Let us know, either Bob or Jamie or Chris or myself or something like that. So thank you for that. And that's it from me. So if there's nothing else, then I need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Support. Okay, moved and supported, and we are adjourned. Thank you, folks.